So how can we find the buy-in with our health? And so we need to create the stakes. So the more that you can blend these two worlds together and make them just one unit, the easier and seamless this is all going to be. And we have certain benchmarks and we have certain KPIs that we're going to have in business. And the same thing can be applied to our health and fitness. The real meaning is to be the CEO of your health and life.
Welcome to the Get Business Savvy podcast. I'm George Black, and I've helped lead 19 companies to over $1 billion in combined revenue.
And I'm AJ Bishop, a starting entrepreneur.
We're super excited to welcome Julian Hayes II. Julian is the founder of Executive Health. He's a hybrid athlete, a wellness consultant, and a columnist at Forbes, and a lot more. So, Julian, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. Really looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. Just by meeting you and looking at Executive Health, thinking of your health as its own entity that you are responsible for the success of, just as you are of your business. To an entrepreneur, that should be a seamless way of thinking about your health, starting slow and then growing it as you go, just like any other business.
A lot of us have different things that led to our buy-in with our business and our entrepreneurial journey that made us all in on that, to burn the boats and not go back. So how can we find the buy-in with our health? And so we need to create the stakes. We have stakes different way. For me, the stakes came to me close because I got to see what happens with poor health. I had a lifetime of seeing it. And so with, I don't want to wish that on anyone, but a lot of times as humans, pain is our greatest teacher. Just like as a kid, we stop touching the stove once we put our hands on it the first time. So a lot of times we may need that, man, this suit is really tight. What's my waist size now? Or going to the doctor and, oh, your lab work's not as good as you thought it would be. What are you doing? Maybe we need to work on that. A lot of times it comes to that.
Julian, I know from firsthand entrepreneurs and business owners who literally don't know how much they weigh. And the only time they find out their weight is if they go for an annual checkup. Mm-hmm. I really don't want to go to my annual checkup because he's going to tell me I'm overweight or I weigh too much. I'm like, well, how much do you weigh? He goes, well, I don't know. I'm like, what? But the other thing that hits me though, I think this could be a huge motivator is, and it was for me, this was a number of years ago, but a man that I knew, an older gentleman, but not that old at the time, had quadruple bypass surgery. And I went to the hospital and visited him, and I could see, the results of the surgery and how he had been opened up and stuff like that. And it was horrifying. And I just thought, I am going to do everything in my life to avoid that. Mm-hmm. And, so I think it's different motivators for different people, but that kind of stuff is really powerful.
Yeah. And I also want to make a distinction here. Actually, you brought up a good point here, and I didn't think about it because at first I want to say there's a distinction. So are you running away from something or are you running to something? And this is what I mean by that. When I first started my health journey, I was completely running away from illnesses I've seen in my family and everything. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's powerful. But now when you change that, what are you running toward? That's even more powerful. And it's not as fear-based as well. And so that's a very subtle distinction. But if you can get to something to where like, I'm not running away from this, I'm running toward something. I'm running toward optimization and enhancement. I'm running toward all these things. The feeling, the power that gives is a lot more freeing to me personally than saying I'm just trying to avoid disease and stuff like that. Because when you say that, I mean, you can get past the bare minimum and technically you're not those things, right? So it's just a thing I had to learn much younger, that I had to make this distinction because I was doing a lot of things out of fear base.
That's really good because one of the things I've talked about in living truly free as an entrepreneur was that I was able to be home for my boys when they came home from school. A lot of times I got that moment with them. I was able to do trips of all kinds with them because I had a flexible schedule where, a lot of the dads couldn't do that. And the thing that I decided from a fitness standpoint early on when they were very young was that I wanted to be able to physically do anything that was required within 24 hours, whether that was 100-mile backpacking trek or 5 days of skiing or whatever it was we were doing. I don't want to be all sore and tired after the first day. I want to be able to go. And so that was definitely running to something. But now they've grown, but that I've cultivated that habit, and I'm like, yeah, but I still want to be able to go whenever. So that's really good.
No, I love that. What it's really all about. It's awesome to hear little things like that. If people just pause for a moment, as we get older, I can definitely speak this for men. It becomes less and less about I'm just trying to look good, impress the women and everything. If you already got the woman, you got the wife, you got the kid, and all that. there has to be a new carrot that's going to have to be dangled out in front of you. And so for a lot of people, why not your kids and being able to be a active participant with no restrictions at all in doing that.
Yeah. And that's just like what you talk about with next levels, George and Julian, you were talking about that with creating a goal for yourself personally. Now I'm thinking, I don't want my kids to be able to beat me at basketball until they're like 18 years old.
I'm still the same way on that. Unless there's some outlier All-American. They're not beating me. No. Mm-mm.
Well, okay, guys, I gotta slow you boys down because my 18-year-old son came home. Well, I guess he had barely turned 19 from the military academy. And he goes, "Hey, Dad, look what I learned." And he threw me up on his shoulders and is twirling me around like this fireman thing or something. And I'm like, "Put me down." I'm like, so look, I mean, it's like he pulled a move on me that was so fast I could. So anyhow, I'm just don't send your kids to like schools like that.
I got to train hard enough. I got to train. I just got to keep training hard.
Yep.
That's the new competition. That's our competitor.
Julian, I want to ask you a quick piece of advice here because a lot of us, certainly me and AJ, and I know this goes for a lot of our listeners, we're sitting a lot during the day. We're working at our computers, kind of hunched over, all that kind of thing. Do you have some quick tips or anything for that?
Yeah, I like to use the it's called a Pomodoro technique, and just simply every let's see, for most people it's set every 25 minutes and there's a 5-minute break. So if you do that, maybe during those 5 minutes you quickly stand up and maybe just pace somewhere or just stretch a little bit. Or for me, I like to extend that because I really get in the flow of writing. But at least within the hour, I'm getting up to where I'm not just sedentary and my back's just getting stiff. So that's one of the easiest things you can do. Secondly, we have a lot of Zoom meetings now. And I want to question, are all those meetings, do we need to see each other instead of the computer? Or can some of these be a phone call and I can get my walk? I can walk while I'm having a walk, while I'm talking. And this is a walking meeting. A lot of entrepreneurs of the past have done this, from Steve Jobs to Mark Zuckerberg, even composers like Beethoven, people like Charles Dickens, all sorts of things have really loved walking meetings and the power of walking and what it will do to your creativity. So that's something that you can do, is find ways to incorporate movement and health into your everyday business activities. Even if you're watching a lecture or you're listening to someone on a call, if you're not needed to be an active participant, but just to listen, that could be a great time for you to just get some stretching in and some mobility work, even if it's only 5 to 10 minutes.
Right.
But you're getting little pockets in and out of the day. So the more that you can blend these two worlds together and make them just one unit, the easier and seamless this is all going to be. And one thing with nutrition, I would say, is a lot of times we leave this up to randomness. What are you going to eat today? I don't know. That's fine on Saturday or Sunday, maybe when you're a little relaxed and you just want to have fun with the family or something. But during the week, a lot of us are just about the business. And the less that we can think about things like this, that's the more mental energy that we conserve and that we can use toward our business and allocate it to our other things. So for most people, what I've seen is breakfasts are fine, dinners they're fine, but it's the middle of the day, people have no game plan, and it's all just convenience. And at least in the States, I know you have some international listeners, but in the States, when things are set up for convenience, it is generally not good for us. Not good for us. So I would say, what is your standard for performance with nutrition? At least maybe Monday through Friday. And have a rotation of meals if you want to just make this easy. One easy way to do this is maybe look into some type of meal delivery service. There's a lot of local ones now. There's a couple good national ones. And you can at least have it set up for lunch. So maybe like I have my breakfast under control. I have my dinner under control, but it's this middle of the day that just gets all out of the place. And sometimes I don't even eat. And then therefore now I'm going to like binge or something later in the day because I'm hungry.
Yep.
So thinking about that is creating a standard of performance for your nutrition.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. You have a standard of performance for your workday. You hold yourself to a certain standard as a professional. You should probably do the same with your health and how you eat and approach just your meals. It's all, like you said, getting organized.
Yeah. I mean, we have certain benchmarks and we have certain KPIs that we're going to have in business, and the same thing can be applied to our health and fitness, and it just makes things a little more streamlined, and also it makes things probably a little more understandable for business people to come into this world and think about it this way, and make it so much doesn't seem like a foreign concept.
What's the philosophy you have on like maintaining good, and I'm calling it health or wellness or staying fit or eating right, or I think you kind of cover all of that. I'm curious about what's kind of your guiding lights for that.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite words is sovereignty. It's complete and total sovereignty. And a lot of times we don't use the word sovereignty when we're thinking about health and fitness. It's actually one of the impetus of executive health. Yes, it's for executives, entrepreneurs, business owners, et cetera, et cetera. But the real meaning is to be the CEO of your health and life, first and foremost, to realize that you have much more control than you're let on sometimes, and even, or maybe that you even heard about through different families. We've all heard that, hey, this runs in our family, and you just leave it at that. Well, that's not really true. We have actually much more control over that than we're let on. And so I think as a nutshell, it's that word sovereignty.
Could you explain what you mean by the word sovereignty? Because I think if we do get a few audience members from the UK, but here in the United States, that's not a word we're typically familiar with or use.
Sovereignty is freedom. That's how I think of it. It's freedom. You can say living life on your own accord, not being controlled, not being boxed in. And I think one way to display that is to have personal excellence, is to have great optimal health. If you think about it, a lot of times as a business owner, we can want to do all these things in the world. We have the biggest dreams in the world. We want to have an 8-figure business. But if we don't have the energy, if we don't have the cognitive abilities, the resiliency to do it, we are essentially the bottleneck of this entire whole operation and dream. And so we're actually boxed in. We have no freedom because our health doesn't allow us. And you can only go as far as your health is going to allow. You can only lead as much as your health is going to allow.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's kind of, in a nutshell, what I get around when I think of sovereignty. And also it's taking initiative to take things into your own accords. We control what we can put into our mouths. We control moving our bodies every day. We can control the information that we can consume. We can control the relationships that we choose to entertain that bring us bliss or that bring us extra unnecessary stress. We can control, even in business, who we choose to do business with, how we choose to do business with. Those are all under our control. And that all comes back to affecting our health in some form or fashion.
Well, Julian, this has been super thought-provoking. I'm just churning with ideas. So I hope everybody else is too. Where can people go to connect with you and find out more?
Yeah, the home base is executivehealth.io. You'll see everything there. I have a podcast and a YouTube, and it's the same name. It's Executive Health and Life, and you'll be able to see information there as well.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation.
So we'll have all those links down in the show notes below. And while you're checking out those links, grab a spot in our free webinar, the Exponential Growth Webinar, because that's where I'm going to share some stories and techniques on how I help lead companies to huge growth and how you can lead your company to huge growth. And check out this video right here. I know you're going to love it. And in the meantime, may you live truly free.